We got a special Tampa Bay treasure today. Out of the field. We used to grow them.
Out of the field. Okay. Yeah. Bob Kendrick shows us a slice of Tampa Bay history with a visit to the Kapok tree. That's up next.
It's 150 feet tall and another 50 around its base. This Clearwater landmark, known as the Kapok tree, is thriving 110 years after its seeds were planted by a missionary. What you might not know is that something even more spectacular sprouted here because of the tree. These days, it's a mecca for musicians. But for over 30 years, this was where the common man came looking for a simple meal in Fantasyland. In 1957, the tree, in all its glory, and its accompanying citrus stand, made a nice stop for Clearwater residents on a Sunday drive. But that year, Bill Baumgartner's dad, Richard, decided that his family would stop there permanently.
It was beautiful when he bought it. You got to realize in the 50s, this was the boondocks. You have no idea how desolate this area was. There was nothing. We were the only thing here.
The isolation didn't bother Richard Baumgartner. He already owned the Peter Pan, a successful restaurant in the Maryland countryside, and knew that people would drive for miles if you made it worth their while. His new Kapok Tree restaurant would be.
He wanted to give them spectacular for a reasonable price.
The beginnings were humble, just 4 waitresses and 4 menu items. But throughout its existence, the Kapok Tree restaurant was in near constant expansion. Up went Corinthian columns, then garden walls, and hundreds of statues. Then, room after room was added, each with its own theme. Baumgartner took his design cues from his travels. One room may have a Dublin Museum roof recreated. The Hall of Mirrors at Versailles in another.
You've got Greek mixed in with Roman or Italian and you know, French and all that, but it blends. This was copied after the Crystal Palace in London.
Sure.
It was an exposition held during the reign of Queen Victoria.
Right, very famous building. I could see that now. What was all this along the side? What was it used for?
All along there and all along here were gift shops.
Okay. So this was basically a spot for folks to browse, I guess?
Air conditioned while they waited.
Okay. Waited for up to 5 hours on a weekend. Richard Baumgartner had truly achieved the spectacular.
If you went to dinner and had dinner in the grand ballroom, people went to eat with their eyes. The food was good, the food was nourishing, but you know, it was not the food that people came here for.
And what was inside the Kapok Tree complex was really only half the story. No meal was complete without a stroll through the gardens and over to the Kapok's crown jewel.
We made a trip to Italy, and we went to the Villa di Estes outside of Rome. And they had a fountain, and, you know, he observed it, he liked it, he thought about it, and the next thing you know, when we came home, he was building his version. It took longer to build that than it would have taken to build a house.
The Kapok was still serving 1 million dinners a year when Richard Baumgartner died in 1976. After that, the good years grew rarer. By 1991, the restaurant was in a financial tailspin, and after 34 years, it closed its doors for good. Well, the old building has certainly changed its tune, but the main dining rooms still dress up every weekend for weddings, and you could take a sentimental journey through the gardens on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
I'm glad the building still stands, because as long as this building stands, my father's memory will remain.
As for the Kapok Tree itself, if the first 100 years are any indication, it's due to see a lot more changes in its corner of Clearwater. But regardless of how long it lives, its glory days will likely be counted among those when it helped Richard Baumgartner host the world for dinner.
This Tampa Bay treasure, brought to you by Winn-Dixie Marketplace.
We're out.
Hey, everybody.
Happy
Happy Thanksgiving.